Welcome to Life Extension Live. I'm Dr. Mike, and that is
Dr. Crystal.
Notice I didn't point because I say, yeah, I got it right. Yeah, Dr. Crystal. Great to have you on today, Dr. Crystal. What a great show. We're talking about food allergies, food sensitivities. Here, I think most people watching right now, and I'm one of them, relates to the fact that there are certain foods that we eat that we just don't feel great after eating them.
Yes.
Yeah. And that could be a variety of whatever it is, but bloating, headache, just maybe just kind of like, ugh, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What, do you experience that too?
I do. And I know what those foods are. And so, yes, but it's not many. Thank goodness. Knock on wood.
I'm going to tell you right now, as you get older, the list grows a little bit. Just get ready.
Oh.
That's my experience. So on today's show, let's take a look at what we're going to do. We're going to talk about, when you feel kind of weird after eating, is that an allergy? Is it something else? What are those causes? And of course, solutions, how to treat. So let's get right into this. So if you were to guess, Dr. Crystal, don't show the graphic yet, Rob. So we're gonna quiz Dr. Crystal. She's the nutritionist. Ready? If you had to guess, like some of the foods that are most common for causing issues, give me like what you think the top 3 would be.
Oh, well, come on, Dr. Mike. You have your 9 major allergens, so we can talk about dairy,
of course she's gonna
wheat, soy, peanut. I could go down that list.
All right, that's fine. You know it. There's the pictures. Jeez, that was too easy for you, wasn't it?
It was easy.
Yeah, dairy, nuts, wheat, eggs, strawberry. These are just common food sources that are known to be food allergens, and when we eat them, can cause a variety of symptoms, all the way from very severe to not so severe. And those symptoms can be caused by a variety of different types of reactions, right?
Yes. And just to clarify, they're not a part of the 9 major allergens that you must list on your labels. So I just wanted to clarify that. But, I think that's included because, people have allergies to all sorts of foods.
Right.
It's not just the 9 major, and that's what makes it's so challenging. Like, people have all sorts of reactions.
I have another quiz for you.
All right.
What's my main food I can't eat?
Bananas.
You better get that right. Bananas.
Bananas, yes.
Yeah, I had a weird story. I've told you this before, right? Where I ate bananas all throughout my childhood. My favorite was peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Oh, that sounds good.
Oh, it just was wonderful.
My dad talks about eating those.
Yes, just so good. And then one day, I don't know how, I was late teens, whatever. One day I'm eating one, and I had a severe reaction. I had to go to the emergency room because my throat was swelling up. So I have not had bananas ever since then. So anyways, you could be eating something for your life, and all of a sudden you have a sensitivity to it, or it could be something brand new that you're sensitive to. It's just hard to tell, right?
Yes. And so in your case, you had a more severe, I would say, life-threatening experience.
Yeah, it was scary. I'll never forget it.
But we also know, and I think we have a slide for this, that some of the reactions can be things that you may not suspect food as the culprit. Like, of course, there are digestive issues, but skin rashes, headaches, fatigue.
Look at all that. Yeah.
Joint pain, brain fog, it goes on and on, mood changes. Of course, we know about the respiratory issues. Maybe you're getting a stuffy nose or a runny nose. You're thinking, hey, maybe this is allergy. But what about insomnia or muscle pain?
Yeah, so many.
And so there are a variety of reactions to food, and they may not all be what we would consider a life-threatening reaction, but food could still be the culprit.
Yeah, and it doesn't always have to be like you got insomnia up there. What that tells me, it doesn't always have to be right after you eat the food. You might be sensitive to something you're eating, and the net effect for you is you don't sleep well after you had that, maybe at dinner time. So, but it's not like the real dangerous fast ones, like my banana thing. Sometimes it may be hard to associate which food it was that's causing that issue. So some of these symptoms can develop slowly over time.
Yes.
Got so do you have any? So you're pretty good to go. You know your foods.
Yes, and very mild, and I think that takes us to, I have a sensitivity. So when we look at reactions,
Well,
there
wait,
are,
don't go there yet. I want to know what your foods are. Everybody knows mine's bananas.
well, I don't have any allergies. So let's just say that.
Okay.
No allergies. So if that's what we're talking about, I have zero allergies.
You said there was like 3 or 4 foods that you get your little whatever with. Just what are those?
Yeah, dairy, well,
Mhm.
milk in particular, and too much milk chocolate. So it's not the chocolate, it's whatever kind of milk they put in the milk chocolate. Halloween, I overdo it, then
Oh
I'm a little
no.
gassy. Maybe it's the fat plus the milk. And then, of course, some of the sugar alcohols. I have
Oh, those.
very low tolerance to
Oh. Okay.
sugar alcohols. Get really kind of gassy, and it's not a pretty sight.
Or
uh,
pretty sound.
Pretty sound, and that's about it. I mean, I occasionally have trouble when I have too much fiber, but that's to be expected.
Yeah. Okay. And you do your fiber, and I'm sure sometimes you do probably overdo it a little
Yeah.
bit, right? Okay.
So
All right. So what's
most of
going
my,
on? Let's move into what's causing these. So you saw this wide range of symptoms, from mild to severe. How are we categorizing this? How do we know what's really going on? So let's walk through, Dr. Crystal. What are like the main causes of this? And it starts with the dangerous one. Those are the true allergies, right?
correct. This is an immune system response.
Big time.
Your body, yes, and this is life threatening, and this is the type of allergy where you have to keep that EpiPen around,
Right.
and that's giving you that dose of epinephrine. And these are the allergies where you see that class in the movies where the eyes swell up and the throat's closing, and it's just not a pretty sight, and it
It's
is life
scary.
threatening, and the immune system is immediately often
Yeah.
reacting and
So
to
that would
the proteins in those foods.
Yeah, so that would be so if you look at the graph up now, Dr. Crystal, we're talking about the bottom one there, food allergy. And you said it exactly right. I mean, what we do believe is there's some sort of protein in that food you're eating that your body thinks is like harmful to you,
Hmm.
right? It's dangerous. So we need an immediate response to fight that off. So that's the worst case scenario. That was my banana story. I know it sounds weird because for years I ate bananas,
Hmm.
but for some reason my body just at that point decided that protein in banana is not good. We need to get rid of it,
Yeah.
and it happened.
Yep.
All right, then let's move into the next category of food intolerances. Tell us about that.
Now, this is, I would say, a very broad category, and this is not immune mediated. And so I wanted to make that clear. Usually, you're having more of a difficulty digesting the foods.
Yeah.
So you're having more of the digestive complaints, digestive issues. So most common is lactose intolerant, right?
Yep.
We need
Very
the
common.
lactase enzyme to break down lactose in dairy. There's also fructose intolerance, sucrose intolerance. So we can kind of group all of those. Or you're having some intolerances, maybe some enzyme deficiencies to carbohydrates. And then, of course, there's histamine. And histamine, we know histamine that's involved with the allergic response.
Right. Yep. That's sneezing, the itchy eyes, all that kind of stuff.
Yes. And so this also is thought to be a deficiency or just not enough of the enzyme that breaks down histamine. Now, when we think
Right.
about histamine, it's found in many foods that we eat, which again makes it a little more challenging
Mhm.
because you drink red wine and with histamine you are seeing more of the respiratory type reaction, the
Right.
running
Upper
nose,
respiratory. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
the itchy skin, and and so a deficiency in that enzyme that's needed to break down the histamine. So that's the wines, the aged cheeses, the fermented foods. Something else is leftovers tend to have
Hmm.
kind of a little more of the histamine. So you
That's
find people
interesting.
that cooking the food fresh. We'll get into some of those tips later. Caffeine intolerance.
Big category for a lot of people.
We know what's
Yeah.
happening here. This is
Yeah.
more of a genetic issue.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
would maybe it's not an issue.
It's whether
It's
no,
a
there is
variation.
it kind of is, right, because we know there are rapid metabolizers of caffeine, and then there's slow metabolizers of caffeine. And if you're on the slow side, you're going to feel more of the effects, and it's not fun, and people don't like it. So we categorize you as intolerant to caffeine. It's really just it's related to how you metabolize it, which is connected to genes, without a
Yep.
doubt. Yeah.
Yep. So, that's an intolerance, again, non immune mediated. And then, of course, we have the last category. And
Huge.
remember, broadly, we're talking about food reactions, different subtypes. And then the last one is the sensitivity. And these are reactions where we can't really describe it as an intolerance. We can't really describe it as a true allergy.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
kind of look at this as the
yeah.
bucket that's causing the mystery symptoms.
That we've done shows on that, right? Remember the mystery symptoms, and but think about that scenario. Maybe it's headaches, and so whatever it may be, you've been worked up for everything by your doctors. They can't find a single thing that this is. Unfortunately, that often leads to a diagnosis of depression and antidepressants and whatever. We're not going to go down that road, but sometimes you got to stop and think, is it possible that I feel the way I feel because it's what I'm putting in my system?
Right. And for whatever reason, my body doesn't like it, or my
Yeah.
body's responding negatively to it.
Yeah. One thing I do want to mention, and this is just more of a disclaimer, things like celiac disease, as an example, that doesn't really fall in these categories because that's an autoimmune disorder, and it's important. That doesn't mean you could still be sensitive
Mm-hmm.
to gluten and that kind of stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's celiac disease because that's an autoimmune issue. So
Right.
just make sure we're clear on
Mm-hmm.
that. Yeah, that's fascinating stuff. Hey, Robson, can you throw up that last graphic just one more time, just so people can see it? Those three reactions. There you go. Those are the reactions, and this is where where most of these symptoms. You eat food, you have some sort of symptom. It's one of these three categories. Thank God for most of us, it's not the food allergy part. For most of us, it's the intolerance. It's the sensitivity part, right? Would you agree with that?
I would agree.
Yeah. All right. So now, what do we do with all this? So somebody watching Dr. Crystal was like, okay, yeah, I know if I eat some of this, some of that, I don't feel great. I know it's not a true allergy because I'm not I can still breathe and stuff. How
Mm-hmm.
do they know? What can they do to figure out why am I having these symptoms when I eat certain foods?
Well, you can test. There are all sorts of tests that are available. Many people are familiar with like the true allergy test, the skin prick test. You can test topically. You can also can test serum antibodies that you're producing. Those immediate, allergic reaction antibodies that your body's producing in the bloodstream. So you can test that in your serum. You go to an allergist or for the
Yep.
for the skin prick test.
A lot of people have gone through that for sure. Yep.
Yes, and they test kind of a full panel. Still may not come out with an allergen. My son went through the full gamut, the serum testing, the skin prick testing. We still haven't figured out what his allergies are.
It's still one of the best ways to determine. It really is, but it seems so barbaric. You know,
yes.
I mean, you're lining up all these things on someone's arm, right? It's just like, is this really still what? Because we've been doing this for decades this way, right? But it's still, unfortunately, the best way to find your answer, and it's not always clear. That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. But that's a way to kind of see those true allergies to find out exactly what's going on there. Your carbohydrate intolerances. Of course, if it's something like, hey, I notice it's happening with milk all the time, you kind of can be your own detective, right?
Yeah, you probably can. Yeah, I don't know if you need a lab test for that. Yeah, I drink milk and I get gassy. I wonder if maybe I need lactose-free milk, right? I mean,
right.
It's not that,
but there's the carbohydrate intolerance, hydrogen breath testing for lactose and fructose. There are IgG tests, which is more of a slower reacting type of antibody. Some controversy around that. So
there is, but it's at least in the past we thought that it was good maybe for catching the sensitivities. Yes. Right. You're not those mystery symptoms and what is the food connected to that. But yeah, not perfect, but I think it's been helpful for some people.
Well, it helps some people to guide. What I love is to guide that elimination diet. It helps people kind of see some of the foods that they eat all the time and kind of push them towards more of a variety eating way.
A big one that's come up now, and this is, I think, a great direction for this industry, is gut barrier testing. Looking at how permeable your digestive lining is, because one of the key things in the gut, it's not just to digest the food and absorb those nutrients and make waste and get them out. It also regulates what comes into your system and what doesn't.
Yes.
It is an important barrier, right?
Right. And I always like to use the analogy or just the saying that you can consider your digestive tract outside of the body.
Yeah. It is exposed outside, right? It's from here to there, it's outside.
And it's inside for us, but it really is outside of like the inner workings.
Yeah. And so it makes sense that it has very specific rules for what gets in and what doesn't. And as we age, based on foods, based on some of these reactions we're talking about, that barrier gets a little weak, right?
Yes. And just to piggyback on that, Dr. Mike, it has rules on what gets in and what doesn't. And it has rules on sort of the size limitations. Like it likes your food to be in a nice little small components. If we're getting larger proteins entering into the bloodstream, the body's saying, wait a minute.
Something's wrong.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Why are you here in this form?
Yeah, for sure. And so gut barrier testing is something else to look at. Life Extension, since we're talking about this, has a gut barrier panel finger stick. You can see it right there. If you go to lifeextension.com/leaky gut, or just take a picture of that QR code, right? Boop, boop. It'll take you right to the page. Good news, when you do that, you're going to get 10% off plus free shipping and handling.
Yep. Right? Use the code LE Live.
Yes. Oh, yeah. You got to use the code. Don't forget the code. LE Live, and you'll get a nice little discount on that. It looks at a whole bunch of things that when you get the results back, you'll definitely need some help reviewing that. Life Extension has professionals that can help you do that. It's a free part of the test. You don't have to pay for that, and they'll help you understand how leaky is your gut, and is this really maybe one of your problems?
Yeah.
Very nice test. Have you done that test?
No, I'm thinking I've done so many. I have not done that test. I have not.
Yeah.
I had to
Yeah.
think. I did a stool analysis, but not this one. This is the finger stick test.
Yeah. I'm interested in it. I mean, so far, I think I'm doing okay, but I am interested in that. I kind of want to just see at, in my 50s now, how's my lining doing? We talk about the brain, we talk about the heart, you talk about your blood pressure, you talk about there's so much to think about. How's my liver going? We don't think about, well, how's my gut lining going?
Well, the gut lining, since you're going to go there, Dr. Mike,
Uh-oh.
if you're concerned about your liver, if you are concerned about autoimmune disease, you have to
Yeah.
think about the gut lining and the leaky gut, because that can translate to other problems. It's certainly correlated to other kind of
Great
chronic
point.
diseases that people deal with,
Excellent
along with
point.
allergies.
Yeah, excellent point. If you have like hepatitis for whatever reason, fatty liver for whatever reason, the last thing you want is a leaky gut, because that all is going to eventually get to the liver, right? And the liver's going to have to do something with all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's your leaky gut. All right, so what about, okay, right off the bat, so we got ways to test. We know what we're talking about. We got ways to test. The gut one, leaky gut one's a great one. Go check that out. Lifeextension.com/leaky gut. Let's get into more solutions now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What can we offer them? And the first thing I like when we were putting this together is we always go, let's talk about food first. So there are some simple changes you can make. We call these food substitutions. So let's go through that.
Yeah. So of course, lactose intolerance, you can find there on the chart, the third row, lactose-free milk or milk alternatives. We also know that some dairy products like yogurt, hard cheeses do not contain lactose and can be enjoyed. So you don't have to be dairy free.
Right. Good point.
And so that's kind of an easy substitution for the lactose. Gluten intolerance, I don't think that's on this list, but under wheat. And if that's the trigger, or if it's a gluten product that's not wheat, you have your gluten-free grains. So remember rice, quinoa, buckwheat, oats. Make sure you look for certified gluten-free we're talking about oats, but lots of alternatives to those those grain products, so that you don't have to have the gluten. Of course, you can see soy, lots of other legumes. If you're dealing with eggs, this is nice. Eggs, instead of using eggs, I've made brownies where instead of eggs, I used applesauce.
Okay.
That's just like, oh.
I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Why don't you try my they were vegan brownies.
Maybe I have. Have you brought them to the office before?
Maybe. I don't know.
But no, I'm just kidding. You do have to do what and maybe there is a little bit of a loss of maybe texture, whatever. But at least you're still eating that thing. It's still giving you the general taste of it. So for me, like if I ever had to get rid of cheeses because of lactose, the first thing I would do is make sure I knew a nice list of all the hard cheeses, because that's what I would eat. Right? Yeah. Parmesan, Asiago. Yeah. Those are your hard cheese. Like it's cheeses like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They hold up. Yeah. Okay. I'm happy. I'm good if it ever happens.
And so, yes, you find your substitutions. If the substitutions aren't quite working, then, you can have your add-ins at that point.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. The add-ins, these are things you can, like nutrients, what have you, that you can put into your routine that may help with some of this stuff. And right at the top of the list are digestive enzymes. I mean,
I love them.
When I practicing medicine a long time ago, working with Life Extension, if anybody had any gut issue for any reason, I always was like, Enzymes, probiotics. Let's get those started.
I agree, Dr. Mike.
I
And
mean,
what the beauty of enzymes is I keep them. Now, some people with my lactose intolerance, just to give you an example, I find that if I take a course of enzymes, now this is anecdotal. I'm talking about something that has worked for me. If I take a course of enzymes, I don't have problems with dairy for a while. And then I can tell when I'm starting to have problems again, or after that point, I can take them as needed. So if I eat something, it happened just a couple nights ago, and I'm like, Kaylin, that's my daughter, bring me the enzymes.
You can start feeling it, right?
Yes, because I had a huge bowl of like Fiber One cereal with raisins and nuts on top, and it was just, I knew.
You knew what you needed to do.
I knew what I needed to do.
Yeah,
Enzymes are great.
Maybe the hardest thing about the enzymes, and you just got to work it into your schedule, is they are best. And I'm not going to get into 30 minutes before you eat, 30 minutes after. They are best around when you're eating. That's like their point. Yes. That I tried. That made it hard for me. But you just think of it. These are important. They're helping you. They're going to heal your gut. You focus on the benefit, and you'll start remembering. You just make it part of that habit. Have them with you when you eat.
Yes.
And go ahead and take those. Probiotics, just mentioned. Everybody should be on probiotics anyways.
Right.
So good for maintaining that intestinal mucosal layer. So important. That we're literally talking about, that's the layer that breaks down. Well, guess what? Probiotics support that layer.
Yep.
Take it. Right?
Or eat the fermented foods.
Fermented foods would be great too. Now, if you're at a place where, and I don't know if this is coming up, Dr. Chris, so excuse me, I might be jumping ahead. If you're at a place too where you know there's some inflammation in your gut, maybe you've already had some of the testing. Other things like carnosine is really good as an add-in.
Yes, very good.
Glutamine is another good one. The combo of carnosine and zinc. Very good for healing and calming down the gut. So digestive enzyme, probiotics, maybe some carnosine, maybe some zinc, maybe some glutamine. There's some really solid gut healing nutrients out there that you can add into your diet. Now, you found something that was really interesting, right?
Yes. Sleep. Who knew? So research has shown that sleep deprivation may increase reaction severity to allergen challenge in individuals with a peanut allergy. So that's just an example, but it's nice to see this connection, this holistic connection, Dr. Mike. We call sleep it's a foundational pillar.
Every animal sleeps.
So that's another solution, some good sleep hygiene.
Absolutely. We have all kinds of shows on that you could go check out. Go to our Life Extensions Facebook page. You can find, we've done sleep hygiene a few times.
Yeah.
Sleep nutrients, right? Really to help get a good night's sleep. So important. Great information. One of the things we like to do sometimes is we look at what are the most common questions people are asking out in Google land or whatever we call it. I don't even know. One that keeps popping up, Dr. Crystal, is how can I flush food allergens out of my system? I'm not even sure if I totally understand the question, but let's assume this person is wanting to maybe, like, in a sense, detox those allergens. What would you suggest?
Drink plenty of water. Find out what those allergens are. I mean, it's kind of that's a tough question. Obviously, don't consume the food anymore if you're trying to flush, but try to drink water, stay hydrated, and you may have to give it some time and take, if it's something, You may have to take a couple of doses of an antihistamine if you need
Sure.
to.
Good point.
Take
Yeah, I
and
like that.
again those digestive enzymes, and eventually, the allergen will
Yeah.
have run its course.
Maybe even some N-acetylcysteine and some milk thistle for the liver. Keep the liver going with all this, right? So there are things you can do there. It's funny that this second question I find funny, but it's common, and I know why people are asking. I'm just gonna lay the question out. What happens if I keep eating that food if I'm intolerant to it? Now, you know why they're asking that question is because they don't want to stop eating that food they love. So they want to know at the end of the day, if I just fight through this, is that okay? Or could there be long-term problems down the line?
Well, here's what I would say to that is you're setting yourself up for a chronic inflammatory state in your body, a heightened immune system, not in a good way.
Not yet.
You may start reacting to other things. And so, yes. And then, of course, the GI symptoms will kind of negatively impact your ability to consume the healthier food. So from a nutrition perspective, now you're just making it where you're not getting the vital nutrients you need for your body to run.
You got to find that food substitute. You got to find that thing that can replace the texture and taste that you're not intolerant to. I think you nailed it, Dr. Crystal, about the chronic inflammation, because how often have we said chronic inflammation is the common denominator of all age-related disorders, right? And so if you're living in a state of chronic inflammation, you're just putting yourself at more risk for everything from brain problems, heart problems, joint problems, more gut problems. I mean, you're just adding to it all at the end of the day.
Now, one thing, Dr. Mike, and maybe what this person is probably asking is this idea of oral tolerance, which, I'm not sure if we're really going to go into that, but there are some cases where you can sort of microdose.
Wait. So you're going down the more like scientific route, like, and maybe they were. When I saw this question, I'm like, this person doesn't want to stop eating cheese. That's what I saw. But no, there is evidence. We don't have time to go into it, but there is evidence that small little doses of some things can desensitize. As a matter of fact, new research is showing that giving kids a little bit of peanuts when they're babies and stuff, you can actually minimize any severe thing, in the future for them. So there is more talk about these micro dosing. And desensitization using the actual allergen. Yes.
That's right. Yeah, but generally speaking, don't continue to eat the food. You can try the elimination diet, eliminate the suspected food 2 to 4 weeks, and then add that food in one at a time. And maybe you get lucky. Maybe something that you love is not really causing your problem.
Not really causing the issue, right? That's a great point. Fantastic information, Dr. Crystal. If you want to learn more about this, we have an amazing. This is an article, right? No, this is protocol. New protocol. Right off the press.
Brand new, June 2024.
Lifeextension.com/food reactions. This is where Life Extension really shines. We have protocols covering over 140 or something disease states. We added one on food reactions. It's chock full of more information, all the research you want to see, more treatments, all that kind of stuff. So check that out at lifeextension.com/food reactions. And when you're there, shop around. And when you want to check out, go ahead and put in the LE Live code, right? That's right. Going to give you 10% off if you spend $50 or more, plus free shipping and handling. That's LE Live. Of course, we go live every Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern time. So wherever you watch us, hit interested, join, like, whatever you got to do, so you always know when we're about to go live. I'm Dr. Mike. That is
Dr. Crystal.
We'll see you next Wednesday.